The last part of the person analysis is to make sure that our needs analysis is actually identified the gaps between the skills people have and what they need. Um, it particularly if there's certain behaviors we need to see, certain expectations for levels of performance and types of performance. All of our training needs for the individuals have to be customized to the needs that are determined in the needs assessment or the needs analysis. So um, the needs assessment is the basis upon which all of our training needs are developed. And we also need to know the way that employees learn. Everybody learns quite differently. Um, and our goal is not necessarily to say, oh, we're only going to do lecture, or we're only going to do computer based, or we're only going to do this. Multimodal training is the way to go. So we have some things that are read write, some things that are visual, some things that are kinesthetic. We want to reinforce learning through all of the senses. When we reinforce learning through all the senses, it increases the capacity of the individual to absorb and to retain the learning that they need to have to be able to do that job. Now remember, we spent some time a couple of modules ago talking about motivation theories and helping you to understand the basics of motivation, like what motivates people to behave. We talked about things that motivate people. We talked about the way the process looks like. But some of the key things that help with success in training, number one, is self-efficacy, the belief that somebody can do something, that they can perform it. And self-efficacy plays a role in expectancy theory. If you remember, if I believe I can do the task and I can do it, I have to believe I can do the task. I have to believe I'm going to get the reward, and then I have to value that reward in order for us to be motivated. That's the way expectancy theory works. So self-efficacy is important. So people have to believe that they can perform it. Otherwise, it's an uphill battle. And I'm sure you've all been around a friend who's like, oh, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it, I'll never be able to do this. And you just want to look at them and go, just try it. Just take a step. You don't have to be perfect. You have to try, you have to learn. So we want to encourage people to believe that if they're willing to engage in the training, they're going to learn the skill that they need to do. Then the trainee has to want to do it, right? They have to, first of all, they have to believe that they can do it. Then they have to want to do it. If they're not motivated to learn it, it doesn't matter how much money you spend on it. They're not going to be interested and they're not going to be able to manage it. So our goal, of course, is to make sure that we um, are working with employees to identify those who have a high motivation for training success. They have to want to do it. Then we need to work with goal setting theories. And remember, we talked about SMART goals and all the things, and setting up goals that align with the corporate goals, but also align with the goals of the employee so that they can pull all of that information together and they can perform the task that aligns with the corporate goals. Otherwise, they're going to be going off in their own direction and not really aligning what they're learning and doing with the goals of the organization. And we already talked about expectancy theory there. First of all, in order for trainees to be successful, there are certain characteristics that enhance their ability to learn. Number one is what we call metacognitive skills. And what that means is the ability to step outside of themselves and realistically look at their performance to know whether or not they're performing well. So when they have high metacognitive skills, they have a greater ability to look at themselves more objectively and to realize what they do or don't know and to determine what skills they need to develop. If you have employees that believe they know everything, then they don't have metacognitive skills because we all have things that we can learn, right? Other things that we have to take in mind, right, is personality traits and cognitive ability. People with higher cognitive abilities are better able to learn with greater speed, And people with certain personality traits, like openness to new experiences, are also, and emotional stability can help there as well, um, can also enhance people's learning and their ability to learn the things that they need to learn to either do the job today or in the future. The organizational context also enhances the training transfer of moving the skills from the classroom into the organization and on the job. So we want to make sure that we have a good training transfer climate, which basically means a supportive environment. And that supportive environment means we need to have supervisors that are willing to help you to reinforce the skills that you learned. We will also be working with colleagues who will help us to learn a new skill, that we have a reward system in place that encourages people to learn the new skills and internalize them well. And so that training transfer climate is one that is very positive about a learning orientation, the need to learn, the need to grow and develop over time. Um, And we want to make sure when we're engaging in training that we want to make things as realistic as possible. So when we talk about identical elements, what we want is a context where I'm learning the skill and where I'm practicing the skill are very similar, or as similar as they can be. Um, Obviously, that's not always possible. Like, for example, I can't have you go out into an organization and practice HR decisions for your school project. Why? Because change takes a really long time to be able to implement change in an organization when we're making changes, and that's why the simulation you can do quickly versus going into the real organization. It may take you years before you could learn something on the job. Um, and so we want to make sure that it is, as close to simulated environment, but it's never going to be perfect. Um, the other thing that helps with transfer of training from the training session to the job is clarity about exactly what they need to do and why they need to learn it and do it well. So this goes back to our motivation theories, to intrinsic motivation. If we want people to have mastery, autonomy, mastery, and purpose, people need to have to have the ability to learn a new skill, to master it, and to also know the reasons why they need to learn it. Adult learners care about the why. Adult learners want to know why I need to do this, why I need to change this skill, what's the reasoning behind it. And our job as trainers and as HR professionals is to tell people this is why you need to know this and this is why it's important. It makes a big difference in the way that people engage with the material. And of course, we need to track people. We can't just say, here you go, you're trained, now go have fun. We actually need to sit with them, to work with them, to make sure that they are actually learning the things that they need to learn, behaviorally. So we've got to monitor them, right? Stay on top of them. How we deliver training also enhances learning. For example, making sure people have feedback in the moment how well they're doing things. If they're doing it well, they need to know that. If they need improvement and corrections, they need to know that as well. So we need to be working hands-on with people in the training process to make sure that they have the skills they need to do that work. Um, they need to know the relevance of it. Why does it matter? Again, that's something I need to communicate in the training, and then it needs to be reinforced in the company culture from supervisors and coworkers and things like that. Um, the learning schema is the way that we organize the training. It should be done in a way that incrementally enhances the learning for the individual. They can't chew everything off at the same time. We have to take them incrementally through the lessons that they need to learn. So we want to make sure when we're designing the training that it's done in a way that's incremental, that they learn things step by step, and then ultimately helping them to pull it all together um, in a way that is going to enhance them. So think about the training that you get in doing this HR class, this intro to HR, right? There's incremental learning. You learn one competency at a time, you develop the skill, you practice and the applied skill that you need to do, and we work our way up little by little to pulling it all together through the HR simulation. So this is how we make that work. So there are a couple of different ways that we can enhance training delivery. One is what we call overlearning, which is repeat, 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 practice, practice, practice. And you've all heard the old joke, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Well, it's not about the directions to Carnegie Hall. It's about how do you get to be able to perform at Carnegie Hall, which is to practice, 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 whether it's singing or music or what have you. So, joking aside, we know that repetition is an important way to learn and master a skill, because we can learn things by doing it once, but we have to practice it, we have to repeat it, we have to learn how to do things in a more efficient manner, in a more effective manner. So it will take us time to master something. It can sometimes take months to be fully competent in a skill. So overlearning is reinforced from within the training program as well as after the training program, where the supervisor and the coworkers provide ample opportunity for the individual to practice the skills that they learned in the training session. The more they practice, the greater the likelihood they will be able to master those skills. And again, this goes back to intrinsic motivation, right? Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And how important intrinsic motivation is for employees, particularly around training and development. And it has a direct impact on training success, or training has a direct impact on intrinsic motivation in both directions, right? Massed learning is where we don't try to do it all at once. We actually try to learn it in different chunks, reasonable chunks, meaningful chunks. I learn here, I learn there, I learn the next thing, and we learn it um, um, in a spaced out way. So that's the spaced learning. It's over time. Sometimes learning can be better when it's massed, when it's all at once. I'm sorry, I got those two confused in my head for a second when I read it. Massed learning is where it's done all at once. I get you in, I dive you in, I take you from beginning to end really quickly, and you, not quickly, but whatever is needed for the training, and I have you learn it within everything you need to know within that training session. There are other things that are more complex, and so we might do spaced learning, where over time we will practice things over, in different sections, and we'll get it in little chunks over time. Spaced learning is much more successful than mass learning. Mass learning is when you dump it all at people at one fell swoop, and we expect them to learn it all in one lesson. Sometimes with simple tasks, that's okay, but more often than not, what we're training people on is some very complex processes, and what we want them to do is to learn it in manageable chunks. So those smaller, more manageable chunks makes it easier to get our head around them, and then we can learn them incrementally. So spaced learning is better over mass learning, but sometimes the only opportunity is to do mass learning, where they get the whole thing in one fell swoop. Often with less complex training, we can do that.